Hey, good morning, Asa.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. How are you getting on?
Great, mate. Yep, no complaints. Not quite summer yet, but feels like the market's hotting up.
Yeah, absolutely. How was the M2 event in Christchurch a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, awesome. As always, those guys do a great event. Good content, great engagement. First time in Christchurch, but still, I think 300 people. It was fantastic. Yep, really good day.
Awesome. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Who's joining us? It's nice to see you here. We're joined by Asa Cox, who is the founder of Arcanum, an AI company in Wellington, which I think you started around the same time that I started AI New Zealand, back kind of 2016, 17.
Yep.
So one of the OGs of the New Zealand AI sector. So it's great to join up today and share a little bit more about what you're doing with Numa. We're starting to see, you know, the real growth in the New Zealand tech sector with AI tools for business. So I'm really keen to share and showcase with everyone what you're doing. So give us a little bit of the background around Arcanum and Numa to kind of get us started, and then we're going to get into using these AI tools to be able to win new business. We're going to be looking at what are some of the or maybe looking beyond like some of those repeatable tedious tasks and what else we can be doing. But certainly, things like reducing risk and compliance and those sorts of things are going to be really important. So
Yep.
we've got the next hour or so together.
Awesome.
So yes, give us a little overview in terms of you and Arcanum and the team and what's going on.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Again, great to be here. Great that there's interest in AI across different sectors. Obviously, when we started, it was just for the big guys and the data geeks and the PhDs. Thankfully, it's moved on now to everybody, which is really exciting and good for the economy. Obviously, good for everybody. Hopefully. So yeah, background to me is, as you said, Justin. I've been doing this for quite a while. 2016, started in Wellington. Really in the professional services space, kind of helping people do R&D, working with MPI, New Zealand Rugby, Transpower, kind of big organizations that were looking far enough into the future, which is great. And then over the years, we've built, I don't know, we've done, I think, 250 odd different projects over that time, working with organizations in New Zealand, Australia, globally, across all sorts of different industries. We also developed AI adoption canvas that we still use and give away. I can give a link to that later on. And yeah, we've got majority of the team is still based in New Zealand. We've got a few in Australia now, and partnerships predominantly in the AWS ecosystem, but kind of stretching worldwide. And yeah, really now focused on non-enterprise, non-tech organizations. Not that they're not technical, but they're not like software companies. We do have some clients in that space, but most of the time we're focused on the more traditional organizations that don't have teams of developers to build the stuff themselves.
Yeah, the engine room of the economy, right? These are
Exactly.
the businesses that are making stuff, doing stuff, hiring everyone, employing everyone,
You got it.
trying to grow.
Yeah, I mean, they're businesses that really got not necessarily kind of overlooked, but they were businesses that didn't necessarily invest in the same tech waves that many other businesses did. So maybe they're not mobile first, maybe they're not cloud first, maybe they're not whatever. But we've had a bit of a dip in the economy, so there's been some quiet times, and I think people are looking forwards, going, "How can I do things differently? And how do I now invest in some technology? Can they help me grow?" Help me be more efficient, help me reduce risks.
Yeah, I mean we're certainly seeing that. I mean, a lot of our work at the moment is sitting in the construction space, and they're an industry that's been really challenged, right?
Yeah,
And but they are starting to see some green shoots, and they are starting to like you said, look for technology and look for ways to build capacity, to build capability in their organization so that they are more prepared for growth, right? And I think that narrative is starting to, resonate with businesses right across.
Yeah, and it's not as if they can't use technology. It's just that they haven't had those practices to kind of focus on it. People know how to use web tools, know how to use mobile apps and that kind of stuff. It's not as if they're Luddites in that way. It's just that their industry hasn't embraced technology as much as others. But as you said, now it's been a very boom and bust industry, right? I mean, we're kind of coming on to one of those dips now, and any associated industry, of which there are many, whether it be roading and infrastructure, say construction, the engineering that sits behind that, the architects that sit behind that. There's a huge amount of our employment, wrapped up in those kind of real world build stuff, make stuff industries, and that's where we're focused, because I think that's it's where there's a lot of interest, like you're saying, but also a willingness to just lean into it and really start moving fast, because there is green shoots, and as we always find with businesses, as soon as we get too busy, we kind of don't find the time to be investing in the time to think, and then planning ahead. So now's a really good time to be doing it.
So there's, I mean, the drivers for AI adoption, kind of in a couple of different buckets, right? On one hand, we've got the kind of promise of productivity, and being free up people's time from the repetitive, tedious, shitty tasks that we all have to do every day, right? And so that's kind of a no-brainer. Like we're seeing that happen in every business we walk into. We can unlock that. There's always the innovation and thinking about how we're utilizing this tech to create new products or services that perhaps we just couldn't do before, or were time or cost inhibitive. But the other one is relevance, right? And I think if you're not investing in AI today, if you're not building those skills, you are just going to become irrelevant to your competitors and your customers and your employees in the next few years, because why would they want to work with or partner with a company that's just 10 times less effective than anybody else, right? So with that comes, how do you then use that? So how do you take that leadership approach with AI and actually go, we're going to front foot this, and we're going to use this as a catalyst to actually drive growth and spark that growth for us now.
Yeah, totally. And it's not just a relevancy. I think it's also consumer expectations are going to change, right? I mean, as consumers that are going to be embracing AI and all the various apps and products and experiences that we have, our expectations of working with businesses in a B2B context is also going to change. I think taking a leadership approach is super important right now. It will be compounding benefits. I kind of tell people a day that you invest now will be worth a week next year. It'll be worth a year the year after, right? So the accumulation of what we learn now is going to be so valuable, not just in the doing of things, but also the way of thinking about things, right? Unless you kind of get into it and start learning, start playing with the tools, you're not going to know what's possible and what's not possible. You kind of need to think about the future of business models and the ways of working. There's a ton of different stuff that you can do some theory, listen to some podcasts, listen to some webinars, but ultimately getting into it and actually learning what's possible is super important.
Yeah. All right. So, we've had some wild stats out there that, effectively the majority of businesses in New Zealand are using AI in some shape or form, right?
Yeah.
And we're kind of getting some broad-based understanding around finding the low-value tasks that people can be doing, the kind of bread and butter stuff that I talk about all the time in the keynotes and the workshops that we're doing, right? Find the tasks that your staff hate doing the most and delegate those to AI. Yep. So we're kind of seeing some broad understanding, some broad adoption of that kind of stuff, right? How do we then start? I mean, obviously we're going to start moving ahead to some more complex, more higher value tasks, right? So how do we unlock that within an organization, an SMB, how are we going to unlock that to create capability to do that?
And I think it's hard to do it without getting involved with one of the tools, right? I mean, you're absolutely right. Most of the noise and the volume of noise has been around just a simple, repetitive, low-value task. You got to do a lot of those to get real high value. Clearly, yes, it should be about increasing capacity and moving your time from a lower value task to a higher value task. That's how you get your ROI. But what we hear in the market is a lot of people are just still spinning their wheels a bit faster, right? They're not actually getting further forward. They're just spinning their wheels a bit faster. So I think the moving on to the higher value task has got to be experiential. You've got to be able to get into the tools, understand what is needed, both from the data, from your inputs, from the systems, from the workflows, and that kind of stuff, to be able to really get into that higher value bucket. I kind of describe it in terms of what are the things that you would love to do if only you had more time, right? So how do you go deeper? How do you go better? How do you spend more time on something? How do you evaluate all of those tasks, which when we're busy, we just kind of want to pump out, maybe not quite minimum viable, we're not far away because we've got so much we want to do, especially now with organizations got less headcount, there's even more pressure to keep on going faster, which doesn't necessarily mean better. And so I think we got to move from just doing, just faster to faster and better. Really focus on those high value tasks. But it's great in theory, but in reality, everyone's got to get in and start playing with the tools. That's the only way to exercise those muscles, build up those skills, understand what the right guardrail should be, best practices, so on and so forth. So just get hands on tools, basically. Like most things in life, you got to put in hopefully not 1,000 hours to becoming expert, but you just got to put the hours in to know what you're doing.
So, what are companies that are doing that well? What are some of the activities? What are some of the initiatives that you're seeing companies do that are making that happen?
So I think a lot of it is that moving from the time reallocation, right? So we still have a lot of companies where they spend a lot of time in meetings, either meeting prep, post-meeting, meeting actions, or all of that kind of stuff. There's still a lot of that happens, both in video calls, which is now a lot easier to record and process, but also real world meetings. We're integrating a hardware product called Claude AI, so cousin of Claude. And we're kind of recommending that. We're integrating with it with Numa. And that is in real life, real world recording, because AI should free up more time for us to spend more time with other humans. And then we have this data gap, right? And so we're finding one of the big things is being able to capture that real world meeting data and start making that useful. But with that extra time that's saved, people are then getting into making their content better. And whether that's a contract, a presentation, a proposal, meeting preparation, so that the value add going in that is helping people win business, which ultimately is what we all want to be doing. So instead of just responding to a tender or an RFP or an inbound email and just kind of getting it out as quickly as we can in a templated fashion, now you can personalize everything. And so we're really seeing people better employee engagement because they're actually working on more value-added tasks, better customer acquisition because better personalized proposals, and just the quality step up is really what people are shouting about. That's the thing. It's not just great, I've done this quicker. It's now I've done it better.
And so that's infusing context, right?
Yep.
I mean, totally. It's all about context, right? It's the ability to be able to ingest, synthesize vast amounts of information, and the right information at the right time to be able to personalize it, right? To be able to really tailor it like that.
Yeah,
but I think still now structured.
Totally, people are now beginning to realize it's not just a better Google, but also beginning to realize that the quality of the outputs is there's two things. There's the quality of your inputs, knowing how to use the tools, and then context. The more context you can give it, the better. I kind of liken it to a polite teenager that says kind of yes, 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 and kind of does what they're told for a little while, and then kind of steers off unless you kind of give them the right directions and the right oversight. But now we're beginning to see, the value of understanding how to use the tools better. But absolutely, it's about context.
And so, is that kind of where a platform like Numa comes into play? And I'm segueing here because you've got to be able to connect those disparate data sources together. Totally. And the challenge that we have with any of the mainstream kind of AI assistants is connecting those data sources in, right? And it's not just, like you talked about Claude and being able to record the meetings and those sorts of things, right? Recording meetings for me is about downloading data that's stuck in a siloed source, right? It's stuck in a human's brain, and it's not easily searchable by anybody else. And any kind of, it takes time to get a response from them, right? And so, and of course, then if that person leaves, then all of that knowledge all walks out the door. And the next person's got to start from scratch, right? So there's this building up, these platforms that can connect in to the business tools and the environments, whether that's physical machinery or CRM or meeting notes. Seems to be a pretty logical pathway.
Well, we kind of have to, right? As I say, it's about context. That makes a huge amount of difference. But also, if we want to get towards intelligent workflows, then we need to better connect those systems together. I think one of the huge frustrations that we're hearing all the time is we've gone down this journey of SaaS, and some of it's been desktop software that's moved to the cloud and is kind of theoretically is SaaS, but it hasn't got the benefits of SaaS in terms of APIs and access. And so you've got the mid-size and large organizations who have got data sat in silos, and their frustration is they can't join it together to get the real value out of it. And so there is going to be this journey, I think, in the next 12, 18, 24 months where people need to make decisions on what systems can we connect based on what software are we using, and can we encourage and force our vendors who aren't really thinking about data connectivity to go down that pathway. Because without access to that data, you're not going to get the value from that data, right? And then you're kind of stuck in that old siloed way. So there is a huge driver now that's needed in New Zealand SaaS, ANZ SaaS software generally to be able to make it accessible to AI tools. And so that's one of the initiatives that we're going to be driving over the next 12 months.
All right, everyone, if you've got a question that you want to throw into myself or AC, you're welcome to drop it into the chat. So we're gonna have a look inside under the hood inside Numa, but also just want to kind of touch on that, like there's a lot happening in the compliance side of things, right?
Yes.
And managing risk is multifaceted, right?
Absolutely.
And certainly if you're getting AI tools to be writing, reviewing, there's a tendency, an inclination to kind of take that at face value. There could be an over-reliance on that, right?
Yeah.
So there's got to be a sense of accuracy, confidence, and trust in those responses, right? Because if you're doing a contract review, or anything that's it might be writing an RFP response, it might be doing a resource consent application, anything that's going to be reviewed and critiqued by someone as part of it, it's got to be. It can't just be a template. It's got to be good, right? And it's got to be tailored and personalized, right? So how are we managing to build up those layers of response complexity and accuracy in there to build trust?
Yeah, nice. Well, good segue. Let me lean into that. So what I'll do actually just to provide a little bit of technology context, just to help people through this. So Very, very high level. Again, we're not going to go deep into it. We don't need to. But one of the key things that is our mantra is take the AI to the data, don't take your data to the AI, right? So from a privacy, security perspective, we always take all of the technology that is Numa into a private cloud environment within AWS, and we look after all of that. Our customers don't need to worry about any of that. It's a managed service. And then we rely on their multi-billion-dollar investment in cybersecurity, because with all the best will in the world, we are not going to be able to protect the software better than AWS. And if you've got software running on an offline server somewhere, that's probably also going to be less secure than what these big cloud vendors can do in terms of their investment in cyber. We work to best practice, so on and so forth, but we rely on those with billions of dollars of investment. One of the key things to understand, because we still get the question from people about, well, will my data end up in a large language model? And so with this kind of modern serverless architecture, we basically rent the large language model. It gets used, but it's in a fixed frozen state. And so you're just using it for what's called inference, like getting the answers back. And so there's no opportunity for your data to get into those AI models. So that's just one thing to say, is bring the AI to your data, right? That for me is one of the key tenets, because then you can safely and securely connect your systems, whether they be cloud first ones or local systems. You can build your agents and your knowledge bases confidently, without the fear of any of that leaking anywhere. I'll stop sharing this one, and I'll now go, where have you gone? Here we are, into here. So this is Numa that you can now see. This is the knowledge-based management area. I just wanted to show in the context of what Justin was just saying. And we've got a whole bunch of content in here from different organizations. So you can put in a web crawler, and it will go out and get a whole bunch of content to give you that context. So we've got building.gov, we've got environment, we've got fire and emergency, WorkSafe, all of those organizations that have the regulations that many companies need to comply with, right? And so using that information, we then created an agent which is about compliance. So basically an audit readiness agent. And so being able to have all of the information in this agent guide, which is basically the job description for the agent, right? And what I'll do actually is I'll pull up an example of that again, just so you can see what's involved in that. And so here is the audit readiness guide, and it kind of tells all the different things that it needs to do, right? You need to look through all the documents. You need to have access to different tools. You need to follow some processes. You need to basically go, look, these are all the kind of things that I'm interested in being ready for an audit on. So again, a very, very kind of detailed technical job description for an agent. And so that is the context that you were talking about before, as to what is it actually going to be doing. And so then when you kind of start getting into it, then you can start using that information to help prepare yourself for an audit, for example. So we have a fire inspection next week at our food processing facility. Again, this is kind of clearly, if you're a company, you won't be asking such basic questions, but just to be able to give you an example of how basic you can go. Right? If you haven't actually started, these are the types of things that you may want to be able to do. So it's kind of like going, well, what's step one? Well, step one is you should probably get together and have a meeting to make sure that you're ready to do what you need to be doing. And then how do you kind of continue to go on from there? So you can, so let's go 2. Give me a checklist with the different agenda items. But this is what we're kind of saying. And they want to schedule the meeting straight away. So you can see the agent is actually going, well, this is really, really urgent. I actually need to go out and schedule a meeting for us all to be talking about it. So this is kind of an example of, I'm going to say I didn't actually give it access to Google Calendar. So it knows it needs to do it, but it realizes it doesn't have that tool. And it knows that because it's checked my calendar, it knows that I'm speaking to Justin, and it's therefore assumes that I should be having that meeting with Justin. So Justin, don't worry, you don't have to come to a forest. It kind of gives you the idea that you can start very, very basic, or if within the knowledge base there was an existing, fire and preparation, policy, fire and emergency policy, then it would be able to kind of review those things. But that's what we're trying to get to with the whole bunch of agents that we are building and customers are building in Numa, is just those real world use cases, right? So being able to analyze contracts, being able to connect into Xero to chase up your accounts receivable, to ask questions of your Xero data, to help build quotes. I think quoting is a huge area for many industries. And so being able to take those historical quotes, whether they be in Excel, in PDFs, wherever it might be, you could export data from your existing quoting software if it doesn't have the ability to connect into different systems. Use that for historical quotes, and check the current quotes that you've got to make sure you haven't missed anything, that there's no weird anomalies. Again, people spend a lot of time doing quotes. I mean, obviously you're a busy guy, you do it all the time. And so, there's a lot of times, especially in a down economy, people are doing tenders and doing quotes all the time, speculating, right? You don't know whether you're going to win the business. But people spend a lot of time pulling together those quotes. So that's another huge area to help people grow. So really what we're trying to do with Numa is make it as simple as possible for a non-technical person, to be able to build an agent. So literally give it a name, give it a category, give it some instructions on what you want it to do, but importantly, give it that job description, that guide, which is what our customer success team kind of helps people understand, is how do you build these guides. And then it's as simple as, describing what you want to be done, what systems you want it to be connected to, and then kind of off you go, right? And that's the exciting part about where technology's got today.
Stephanie asks, can it work with any ERP?
So we've got access to, I think, 2,500 connections. So it's through what's called an MCP server, so Model Context Protocol. So like the USB-C, for devices, thankfully, we now have one plug that we need. And so through that, there's access to thousands of different connections. The challenge is if they don't have good public APIs, then it's unlikely there'll be an MCP server currently available. But what we're wanting to do on behalf of those companies is talk to them, help them understand how to get started in building either the public APIs or going straight to an MCP server. So some ERPs do have them already, others don't. We are working with some customers where they've got it. Someone's managing a server somewhere in a data center where the software is sitting. And so we're beginning to work with them to programmatically export the data into a place that AI can then use, right? So it's a shortcut, but a rough one. But if you're working with a software company that has no intention, no willingness to build the right kind of software connectivity, then we've got workarounds as well. So
is anyone using, local private servers to do this stuff, or is it, do we really need to be, sitting in the cloud now?
You can, right? So we are working towards online, offline. So we know that in a lot of these real world industries, they've still got, PCs sat in the corners of warehouses and manufacturing facilities and so on, which has critical data, that they want to pull into different systems. So we are working towards having connections into those systems as well, because that's ultimately where I believe the real value is going to be, is minimizing the amount of change people have to go through, but maximizing access to data. So we need to have a pragmatic approach where we're not forcing people to have to take all their data to the cloud, because there is privacy, security, change management to worry about, but they want to get access to that data too. So technically, it's all perfectly feasible. We're just kind of going through the R&D to connect it all together now.
Yeah. And are you integrating in with multiple large language models? How do you kind of manage that? Is it contained? Is it API? How does that kind of work?
Yeah, so because we build on AWS, and it's what's called infrastructure as code. So we kind of build everything in a serverless environment. So it's not an ongoing overhead to keep running it. We put it inside the private cloud. So within that, we have access to all of the LLMs, right? But again, most of our customers, probably I'd say 9 out of 10, don't really have an opinion on what LLM they want to use. We're using predominantly Anthropic, but with some rollbacks into other AI models, including the AWS Nova suite. Yeah. For us, that's where we add our value, right? We take away that complexity. We don't need people to understand even what an LLM is, or what the different options are, or temperature, or creativity. They don't need to know that, right? They just want to get to a business outcome. And so we put in the effort behind the scenes to do what is best for our end customer.
I thought it was interesting that it came out last week that per capita New Zealand is like number 5 in terms of the usage of Claude, which I wonder whether it's through tools like these as well that are embedding the API into it. But it seems to be pretty popular. Surprisingly, I would never have picked it, but
I think so. It's not particularly. There's not a big brand awareness. If you talk to consumers, that did they realize they were using Anthropic or Claude, they probably wouldn't. So I suspect you're right that a lot of it's coming in behind the APIs, because it's a great quality product, but also when you look at the organization as a whole with its stance on guardrails and doing good and that kind of stuff, there's other reasons to choose it as well. Because pretty much, we're at a ubiquity stage where most of the LLMs are pretty much the same. Where they're better, there's not a lot of use cases right now for people to get the use of better. So, I really see that the future is going to be smaller, more specific models. And so we've architected Numa to be able to intelligently pick, the models that are going to be best for the use case. So
do you think that, once you start building up that library of knowledge, do you think businesses or companies will be creating their own smaller models for things? Do you think there's a kind of future and a benefit of doing that?
There's different ways of kind of training models or distilling models, tuning models. I think that will become easier, but also because of this context or RAG implementation, retrieval augmented generation, that kind of does the same thing. It's kind of like here's the brain, and then here's the bit that you're allowed to use. So I think possibly not. What I think will probably happen is, this is a kind of strategy that we're actively working towards, is some companies who are offering products and services to their customers will likely want to take some of their IP and take it inside their customers. So if you're a consultant, if you're a technical product, you've got support, challenge, whatever, I can see brands and companies having their own MCP servers and taking their capability inside their customers. Changes the customer experience, changes the level of stickiness that you have with them, changes your business model, so on and so forth. So I think that's likely to be the journey, is having these highly secure AIs that can be taken inside customers.
Yeah. Okay. Look, we've got 2 questions here from Tash and Bruce, which are kind of along the same lines, right? So Bruce was asking, how do you limit the AI tools that you use? There are so many tools to learn and adapt, which takes time. What are the key tools we should be using, right? So that's the first one. And then Tash writes, what are the practical steps to help businesses cut through the overwhelming of the tech, overwhelming around their tech stack becoming AI ready? Are we making AI readiness more complicated than it needs to be, right? Now, I don't know about you, but I spend 20, 30 hours a week just immersed in countless tools trying to filter out what's useful, what's good, what to recommend, what to. Now, and I feel bombarded, right? Now, so everyone else must be feeling the same, right? And one of the things that I love about platforms like Numa is you don't need to worry about anything else, right? Because you should be, as a business, you should be deploying one platform that connects, that unlocks and that unlocks the capability of AI to scale that across the business, and then plug in all the different tools and the sources of information that you need to be able to do to give everything context. And then when you're creating those agents, they're available for everyone in the business, or assign them to the people that they need to be assigned to, right? So that you reduce that complexity, right? You don't have to have, as a CFO, and I chatted to a CFO last week, and he said there's like 15 different meeting tools that they're paying subscriptions for. I'm like, all of that knowledge that's being captured is now just been scattered around the web, right? You don't know how it's going to, some of them will be free, paid, all that kind of stuff. It's like, that needs to be consolidated into a platform that, is going to build that knowledge base and create that capability to scale,
Totally. Totally agree. And obviously, we definitely believe that platforms are going to be the way forward. I think we've been through the last 10, 15, 20 years where the SaaS model of go narrow and go deep has been the predominant model. So being able to kind of go, we have a tool for marketing in accountants, right? And then we have another tool to do stock management for widgets in the plumbing industry, right? We've got and so we've got a dozen tabs open or more at any one time, right? And so I think that became our default mode, was especially if you're an early adopter, you like pick all these different products, try them all out and see what kind of sticks. But when it comes into a business context, when you move from a single user mode into a business mode, then less is more, right? It's like, how do you simplify it? Because as you said, if you've got data flying everywhere, then it's hard to centralize and get the benefit from it. But also you want to know that there's some degree of long-term thinking that's going into these platforms. And so being able to have an underlying layer and connecting things in gives you that, architecturally, gives you that flexibility. Yes, there are an abundance of tools and abundance of platforms. Obviously there's Copilot with Office 365. You've got the whole Gemini Google Suite. You've got AI built into platforms like Salesforce, like Databricks, like all these others, which is great. But most of the time they're enterprise focused and not non-enterprise focused. So very few that I'm seeing anyway of the software that is being used in the mid-market is going to have AI capability beyond very, very basic summarization or very, very basic generation, right? So I think, therefore, you kind of need to find a platform that's going to help you connect, like you were saying, Justin, and have that AI layer rather than trying to become an AI everything. It's kind of having that AI layer. Because fundamentally, SaaS is a nice front end on a database. And so if you can connect into those
a spreadsheet replacement.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest with you, I was speaking to somebody just yesterday. It's like, do we need to get a whole project management bit of software, or can we continue to use the Excel spreadsheets that we're using? I'm like, well, as long as we can pull them into Numa, which we can, then you get to still use those Excel spreadsheets. You haven't actually got to change the way that you work. Excel is just another database with a less sexy front end, right? So ultimately, there's a whole bunch of ways of doing it. I think coming to the AI readiness piece, I think there is maybe a lot of overthinking that's kind of going into it. We find companies of a certain size are going, we need an AI strategy. We need to be completely AI ready before we do anything. for me, I don't know, you're on the same page. It's basically learn by doing, go on the journey, and then kind of have the appropriate level of readiness and the appropriate level of policies and procedures and strategy for where you get to on that journey. I think it's definitely easy to overcomplicate it, say everything has to be ready, everyone has to be ready. Just get on the journey, right, and
But it's
evolve.
like, I think there's this kind of transformation thing, and that it's going to change everything that we do, and and yeah, it could, and it might, in time, but that's the overcomplicated part. Actually, where you're going to get value is finding one thing. Let's just get one task or one process, right? And let's find a tool that's going to help us solve that. With that has the ability to scale up, but build that trust and confidence and capability to be able to do that and prove I mean, if anyone has to prove anything now, it's like it's just you're just demonstrating that it works, right? And
that's the
been
key
done
thing,
100 times.
I think it's easy to be overwhelmed when you're kind of seeing on social media, webinars, whatever, that there's just so many options out there, so many ways to use AI. But that's why we run customer success workshops and pre-sales. Part of the trial process is to get your data with your processes connected to AI in the safe and secure way, right? So I think getting people on the journey and finding the advocates, getting the rest of the team involved, because AI adoption is going to be about humans. It's going to be less about the technology and more about humans and organizations. So, the more that you can involve the team at the very early days, overcoming the fears, overcoming the hesitations, making it real, making it safe, is vital. One of the other things is to make sure that from the top, your job is not going to be under threat if you start using AI, because we still hear a lot of people going, I don't want to use it because I'm worried about losing my job. Right. And so that communication really has to be very, very clear, because we, as a country need some more productivity. We need better output. We as the AI industry want adoption. And business owners also, want to have that.
But I mean, look, we've got an aging workforce. The population is not replacing itself. So, we're going to have less people of working age to be able to get stuff done. So, there's going to be new problems to solve. Just because we get rid of the tedious menial work doesn't mean the more complex stuff is going to get easier. There's still more things that we need to do, and it's not just that we don't need those skill sets. It's just evolving. It's changing. Totally. And that's it. It doesn't mean that we don't need people to do the work. We just need the right people doing the right work at the right time.
Exactly. And so definitely, less is more, simpler is better. Pick a platform. Obviously, love it to be Numa. There are others out there, and just kind of commit to a period of time to really start embedding it into your business. Don't overcomplicate it. Yeah.
And that's we did the research with Consult Recruitment, which came out that only 13% of employees have actually received any employer-funded training for any of the tools, right? And it's like you're giving everyone a Maserati without a driver's license, right? Totally. Now, it's it's like back in the early 90s when people had email, it's like you turn up for work out of university and you've got to start using email, and everyone's like, what's this? You got to start learning what to do and how to use these tools effectively to build up your own competitiveness, to be relevant for your employer as well, right? So,
and I think for me, we've kind of trying to simplify the messaging to be able to go, we want to be able to help people grow profitably, because profits are what we are aiming for. That's how, as business owners, as the economy, we can pay taxes and have a better life. But also about that risk and compliance piece. So ultimately, grow revenue, grow profits, reduce risk is what every business owner is kind of focused on. So I think being able to find new clients and prospect better, win new business, service your customers and your staff more efficiently, help with compliance and legal. Again, there's just all of those things which are the fundamentals of every business is where people should be looking, and really find the things that move the needle the most. And then where are the skills needed to be able to tap into that? But also acknowledging that it can't just be left to people to figure it out for themselves. To your point, you need to be able to train people up, give them the skills. We hear too many times that people have signed up to a certain piece of software, they've had a half an hour training that they couldn't attend, and then they've been left to their own devices, and they, at the end of the period, they suddenly go, well, we haven't got a business case, we don't know where the value is. And that's just real shame to hear that too many organizations are not unlocking the value of the technology.
Yeah.
And so that's, we really position ourselves as a partner for our businesses because we acknowledge that it is a journey that they're going on.
It takes time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
it takes time.
Yeah. We kind of agree 12-month plans with people. And what are you trying to achieve? So it's not just about, the software. It's about your business metrics, about where you're heading, why are you heading there? What kind of people do you have in your team? What kind of systems? This is not just a magic wand of fairy dust that you sprinkle on and magically everything becomes better. It is.
Well, no. If anything, it's going to put the spotlight on the things that are not working well, right?
Totally, absolutely.
And that can be challenging. As well, right? When people don't want the spotlight to be put on the processes which are ineffective. So Rachel was asking, because we're talking about SMEs, what sort of cost are we talking about for businesses looking for basic functionality?
Yeah, I mean, for our platform, we've only got 2 tiers. We've got up to 5 users and unlimited users, and so that's $500 a month or $1,000 a month. When you do the math on the cost of salaries and the percentage of somebody's salary might be saving, end of the day, if we can't make it be a no-brainer as an AI industry, then we're doing something wrong, right? It's not on the buyer market, it's on the seller market to make sure that all kind of makes sense. And so again, that's what we do, through our trial period is get people to see this is just an absolute no-brainer to move forwards. So, and we're very happy to talk to anybody that's trying to figure out what that looks like. Stephanie,
that's New Zealand pricing.
We're a New Zealand company, and it's New Zealand dollars.
Time for a couple more questions. I'm off to the Rotary in Newmarket for lunch and talking about AI, which will be interesting. Tim's got a question. Where have you seen AI and agents most effective for bricks and mortar service businesses?
So I think the services ones, I mean, there's a couple of options, I guess. One is when you go out into the field and you're servicing in the real world. Like we've got one customer that's in industrial food processing and they have to go and service the vehicles, service the machines and so on. A lot of that in the field work is quite often very admin intensive, or we've got to return to base to do stuff. So I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity to use audio. So we're really focused on how do you capture the data at the edge, let AI process it, do those workflows so that you haven't got to return to base to kind of enter data into a database again. So that's one thing. I think personalization of whether it be hotels, cafes, whatever, I think there's a big opportunity to enhance the customer experience a little bit. You haven't got to collect a lot of data to really get a much more personalized experience. There's definitely some in stock control, which kind of thing that came up a bit earlier. So yeah, stock control is another one. Being able to then forward, predict what you're going to need, either send the emails, draft the emails, to your supply chain to be able to make sure you don't run out of stock. So I think where business owners spend time in the back office, normally after hours, or they wish they were front of house, but they end up being back of house. All of those things are where agents are really being super useful.
There was one with a property maintenance company, so they've got like 1,000 contractors out doing repair jobs on rentals. The contractors have to remember the job codes to put on their paperwork to get paid, which of course then creates a whole lot of reconciliation work for the back office staff. So we turned all of all of that into an agent to deploy via Teams or WhatsApp. And then we can augment that with health and safety and process documentation as well to make sure they're doing the right thing. So, like, it's really simple, practical things that make an impact, right?
Totally. Absolutely right. Just seeing there's a question from Bradley around setup and training. No, we all do this as part of the cost. If there is additional training, then we collaborate with New Zealand AI on Numa training. And so no, we want people to be set up and running as soon as possible. It can be done within an hour, right? So it can happen very, very quickly, and then get connected to the various systems via Numa. So it's pretty straightforward, and that can all be demonstrated in the trial. I just want to show people so they can put in the right code when they go to the free trial page. So that's arcanum.ai/free trial. Then you can put in the New Zealand AI partner code there, and that'll give you an extended trial, which again we support that with real humans helping you get up and running. Not just kind of leave you to it to figure it out.
Tracy says, can your system link agents into a process where humans perform some tasks and agents others?
Yeah.
So there's a human in the loop with it, right?
Yeah, kind of hybrid approach. Yeah. So there is this expectation right now of AI being both the smart, intelligent, generate content layer and also the workflows. Workflows, I would say, are kind of work in progress. They're coming, but the ability of AI to follow very strict business rules is not ready for mission critical processes. It needs to be combined with workflows that have those business rules associated with them. So part of that would be, under these circumstances, always pass this on to a human, or this task always pass on to a human. So that's the workflow piece, which is really, really important. And so that's something that we're working on right now, is give agents some workflow guardrails, so then you can put in the business rules for these specific agents. Because we put it into the job description, we put it into all the flow. But again, if you want it to be mission critical, you can't rely on agents to do what they're told every single time right now. And that's just the reality of where the technology's at.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending some time with us and sharing the update on Numa. Thanks to everyone who's joined us, and especially for all your great questions to share with us. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to doing a lot more with you, of course. You were on Roadshow last year, which was jolly excellent.
Amazing.
We're in the process of trying to lock in Roadshow 2026.
Love it.
Some fun times. So have a great rest of your day. I'm off to the Rotary to chat AI. Thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate the time. The recording for this will be up in the event space in about 5 minutes. If you want to share it with anyone else. Thanks very much. Really appreciate it, team.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks, everyone. Speak to you soon.
Cheers. Bye.